Welcome to Outdrive, folks. I'm your host, Cliff Callis, and each week I'm bringing you actionable marketing insights you can apply to reach, connect with, and convert rural American consumers. Outdrive is powered by Callis, a full-service advertising agency with a focus on marketing rural America. Callis offers a wide range of integrated marketing services, including website development, search engine marketing, social media, video, and digital. We develop strategic and creative campaigns to build your brand and your business, and you can learn more about us at ecallis.com. Now join me in the front seat as we head out on the road to success. Let's go. Hey folks, welcome to Outdrive. We've got another great story to share with you today about life and work in rural America. In 2026, just 2 years from now, the World Cup soccer tournament is coming to our region. If you know anything at all about soccer, you recognize that this is a really big deal. Certainly for Kansas City, where the 6 games will be played at Arrowhead Stadium, but also for the entire region. 1.5 million people are expected to travel from around the world to Missouri and Kansas to watch the game. So hotels, activities, and attractions are all going to get some extra love from these visitors. And that brings us to our guest today. Bing Schimmelpfenning is the executive director of the Harrisonville, Missouri Chamber of Commerce, and he is one of the many people and organizations who are working to help make the World Cup experience a positive one for all those who live and visit in our part of the world. Bing is also a very active Rotarian and a person who truly loves rural America. Learn about the impact of the World Cup, how it's being promoted, and how you might be able to capitalize on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Welcome to Outdrive, Bing.
Well, good morning. How are you?
Everything's good. We're recording this on a Monday morning. Fortunately, not early Monday morning, although I am kind of an early riser, but the day is fully underway and we got an exciting week ahead. Things are good in Missouri. Had a lot of rain. Weather's nice. A lot of activities going on. You know, the lake's in full swing, so lots of people passing through our town. And, I think we got a lot to talk about today. I want to talk about your background in banking and finance, and then we want to talk a little bit about Rotary and your involvement there, and certainly your role with the Harrisonville Chamber of Commerce. And then we want to talk about the World Cup, which, is a pretty hot topic for a lot of people that I know and a lot of people throughout the world. So you have a kind of a unique connection to that, and we'll talk about that. But before we get into any of that, tell our audience just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. And, we got a full plate of things to talk about today, so no lack of information there. But I'm Bing Schimmelpfenning, and I've been the executive director for the Harrisonville Chamber of Commerce for the last 6 years.
Where'd you grow up? What was life like growing up for you?
Life growing up for me was kind of exciting. Spent most of my life living in the country. And, like I tell everybody, you couldn't pay me to move to the city. Just not a city guy. So my parents and grandparents taught me early on the importance of, where your food comes from and how to grow it and how to farm on our little 5-acre hobby farm that we still have. And then, of course, my grandfather was a huge entrepreneur, and I learned how to sell the crops that I raised to our local stores. And then, of course, that's the importance of self-sustainability. How can you provide for yourself and not be dependent upon others? And that was an important lesson. And of course, when you take care of chickens and ducks and turkeys and everything, you learn some responsibility. And even when it was cold or raining outside, you learned that those animals had to be taken care of. So that really helped me get my leadership skills developed and learned a sense of responsibility. And I can't thank them enough for all those life lessons.
Those are good ones. I tell you what, you don't get those really any other way, I don't think. Well, did you start your career in banking?
I did. And it's kind of funny and fitting in a way that, I started in finance because money is in my last name. So you break Schimmel and Pfenning down, and the Pfenning is a German penny, and it still is used in currency today. So I thought that was kind of fitting to start out in money because it's part of my name, right?
Yeah, very fitting. You talked about some life lessons growing up in the country and working on the acreage. kind of important lessons did you take away from the financial industry?
When you deal with the public, you learn real quick about customer service, right? And I was a vice president at Bank of America for over a decade. Also learned a lot of supervisory and mentoring skills as well. And that's something that's important, particularly when you serve on boards and work with groups of people. Is not everybody agrees on everything, but how do you come to a consensus? How can you go forward? And not everybody achieves some kind of win, if that makes sense. So that decade up there at Bank of America taught me those skills. And then I was financial advisor with a Series 7 and 66 license. So, having those licenses, I learned about the economy and how the stock market works and all of the intricacies that go along with it. So, most importantly, I learned that you must make your money work for you and not you for your money.
That's a great lesson right there.
Absolutely.
You mentioned, working for various boards and things. Do you like to volunteer? Is that part of your DNA?
Oh, it is. Absolutely. Giving back and being part of the community was engraved into me growing up, and it's just something that you do. It's part of being a good neighbor, a good community member, a good citizen of the country. And I believe that you get what you give. So if you give out love and happiness and excitement and things like that, those are parts of yourself. And when you volunteer, you get those things back. So you get back the love and the happiness and the peace that you send out. So people can always give, and they can give whether it's of their time, their talents, or their treasures. I know you don't have to have a lot of money to be a volunteer or to give back. Time is very valuable, and some people have that, and some people have talents. And of course, some have the treasure, but there's always a way for somebody to give back.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes people don't realize that. But everybody, to your point, everybody has a talent. Everybody has something that they can contribute if they just think about it. And gosh, there are, I don't even know what the number would be, number of kind of opportunities for organizations that need people. They need bodies, they need minds, they need hands to work and get things done. And so, yeah, that's kind of part of my personal goals in life, and also as our in our businesses is, we've been blessed, and we need to share that with others.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, sometimes people don't realize it, but the time is oftentimes worth more than the treasure.
Absolutely, because not everybody's got the time.
Exactly. That's right.
So you've been the executive director of the Harrisonville Chamber of Commerce for the last 6 years. What attracted you to that?
It's funny because I retired from the financial industry at 43, so about 10 years ago. And people say, how can you retire when you're 43? And I say, well, you just make the right investments. And that's what learning, about the stock market and things have taught me. So made some really good investment choices and retired at 43. And I'm thinking to myself, now what am I going to do?
Yep.
you know so I found out that I had the ability to give of my time and my talents and some of my treasure. And I joined the chamber in 2015, about 10 years ago, as I said, as a way to get back and plugged into my hometown. So while I was commuting back and forth to the city, making my small little fortune to retire on, I wasn't plugged in enough to my hometown. So becoming part of the chamber got me plugged back in, if that makes sense. So, and I've got a passion to help businesses and entrepreneurs. And, it's that segment of the economy that accounts for, I believe it's nearly 65% of our workforce. And, the local businesses are the backbone of our economy, and they need all the help they can get. So I served 4 years on the chamber board, and then in 2018 become the executive director.
What kind of initiatives do you guys have going on right now in your local chamber?
We've got all kinds of stuff. So, of course, with the chamber, your main focus is on membership and growing the membership, and then adding value to those members once you get them. And of course, being a nonprofit, a lot of people say, oh, well, you're not in there to make any money. The truth is, we have to have money. We have, rent to pay and, mortgage on our building and advertising that needs to be done and staff that have to be paid. And so there's bills associated with it. So we do a lot of fundraising as well.
So, the focus of our podcast is marketing in rural America. How do you market the chamber to attract new members?
Well, one of the things that I tell people is if you think about marketing, it boils down to one thing, and that thing is telling your story. And whether that's telling your story about your business and why you developed a certain product, or your story of how a product helped you and you want to sell and tell others about that, it boils down to telling your story. And I love to hear about other people's businesses and what the things are that they're doing. And as executive director, I connect people and their stories to others, which helps them to grow. So I get to see a lot of people and meet a lot of people. And, not everybody knows that I'm looking for this. And I know somebody over here that does that. And so I just connect them and let them go for it. And it helps them to grow.
Well, that's a great perspective. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about doing a podcast is that everybody has a story.
That's right.
And most of them are pretty darn interesting. You get into learning things about people that you probably wouldn't know any other way. I, as you, like sharing those stories with people. But I like how you simplified the marketing aspect of it because we sometimes, marketing can be very complicated. But I like your viewpoint on that. And I was going to ask you, you said the one thing. Have you read the book, The One Thing?
No, I haven't. Several people recommended it to me, but I have not had any time to read it.
Well, it's a pretty easy read. I recommend it to you too, so you can add me to your list. But it does exactly what you just said. It simplifies things because it encourages you to focus on the one thing that will have the most impact. And then once you get that taken care of, then you go to the next one thing and on. And so I like your approach, and telling stories is such a big part of good marketing today.
Absolutely. And a lot of people, I don't know that they realize that's what they need to do. They think they've got to get, on Facebook and have these fancy promo things and flyers going everywhere and stuff like that. And a lot of times, just attending a chamber coffee or a luncheon and talking to people and give your elevator speech, as I call it, put your elevator speech together, 2 to 3 minutes of your story. You can go a lot further sometimes than even Facebook can help you.
So there's some things that you do to kind of facilitate that within your organization.
We do everything we can to help people tell their story. And so our chamber has First Friday coffees, and everybody gets together and gets to introduce themselves. And like I say, you get 2 to 3 minutes to talk about yourself and then pass out literature and things like that. We have a weekly email newsletter that goes out. We have a marketing intern whose responsibility is to put that all together with the graphics and flyers and everything and the information. And that lets our members, advertise events that they've got coming up and specials at the stores that they have, as well as programs and activities in the community. We've got 1,300 subscribers to that. And I explain that to our new members, saying, those are people that want to receive this email. It's not a spam type email that goes out to everybody. These are actual subscribers. And then, of course, they get access to our Facebook page and they can post stuff on there and we can share and like different things that they've got going on in their businesses. And we got close to, I believe it's 3,500 followers on there. So you can reach a large group of people very fast and tell your story through our chamber. So that's an important aspect of it.
Absolutely. So, I've been involved with our local chamber for years, similar to the way that you were previously before you became the executive director. I've been involved with several different businesses over the years. I've always been a chamber member, and I've never even thought about not being a chamber member, but not everybody is. What would you say to somebody that you run across? You probably get this. What do you say to somebody that you run across that's not a chamber member?
That's the thing is they always ask, what am I going to get out of this if I become a member? And like I tell them, it's like a gym membership. You're going to get out of it what you put into it. So if you don't come to the coffees and you don't come and introduce yourselves at the events and you don't attend lunches and things like that, people aren't going to know who you are. They're not going to know what your story is. Just like if you don't go to the gym and put in the time and run on the treadmill and lift the weights, you're not going to lose weight. You're not going to gain muscle. So look at it like that. And, without being involved in the local chamber or your community, you're missing out on, like I said, you're missing out on being able to tell your story. And without being able to tell your story, your business is going to flounder, I think, and sometimes fail. And community involvement is really crucial for our rural businesses. With a rural area, you're kind of spread out. And, being able to get out and tell your story to the maximum number of people in an economical and efficient way is what community involvement is. It's going to the farmers markets, the vendor fairs, being active in your chamber, and of course, don't forget your local civic organizations like Rotary and Lions, Kiwanis, Optimist, all those kind of organizations that can get out there. Just, I constantly remind our members, find opportunities to tell your story.
Well, I tell you what, I hope people have been taking notes because you just listed off a whole bunch of great, what I would call guerrilla marketing tactics for business, ways to be involved, ways to get that story out there. You mentioned Rotary, and I believe that's the way that we kind of cross paths. Tell us about your involvement in Rotary.
So with the Rotary Club, it's always interesting. So when I become part of the chamber, there was a gentleman named John Foster, and he said, I need to take you to lunch. And I said, oh, great. So I'm thinking in the back of my head, there's got to be a catch. Nobody offers you a free lunch without some strings attached, right? So I went to lunch, and it happened to be at our local Rotary Club, and he talked to me about it, and I saw some people in there that have small businesses, and I said, I'm going to need to be part of this group. Their motto is service above self, and one of the subcategories is see the need and do the deed. So that really struck home with me, and I said, I can become part of this group and hopefully contribute a little bit. And sure enough, within a couple of years, I was president of the club. That's one of the things that they like to do is have a new president every year, and not a lot of organizations do that. They carry them on for a couple of years. And then after that, I got involved in a leadership seminar and took some leadership courses through the Rotary International and become assistant governor. So I have the Belton, Raymore, Harrisonville, Clinton, and Butler clubs as part of my area. And then, of course, when you do your job so well, you find more work to do, right?
Right.
So the next thing I know, I'm also with Area 2. So that area is all of the Warrensburg clubs and Sedalia. So that's where I got in with Darren Grove and got to meet him, and of course Corey, and then out there, great group of people. So I have been now chosen to do that again for another 3-year term. So, I guess I just need to keep doing my job well.
Yeah, apparently you are. You sound like a guy that's involved in a lot of different things. And, one of the hot topics, even though it's still a couple years away, that people are talking about is the World Cup. And I understand that, that you're involved in it. When did you first learn about the World Cup, and tell us about your role?
Well, sure. So, kind of give you some background before we get to that. So, here in Cass County, we have what we call the Cass County Coalition of Chambers. So, it's made up of all of the chambers in Cass County. So, Belton, Raymore, Pleasant Hill, Peculiar, Harrisonville, and then we added most recently the city of Garden City. They don't have a chamber, but they have a business development group. So all of us have been working together and collaborating on issues and helping each other going on 30 years. We celebrated our 30-year anniversary last year. And I've had the privilege and honor to be the president of that group for the last 7 years. So once again, like I said, if you do your job well, you get to do it again and again, right?
That's right.
And recently, what interesting, we learned out of the 114 counties in Missouri, we're actually the only county where all of the chambers work together. And I found that astounding, but That's according to the Missouri Chamber of Commerce, we're the only ones in existence. So we believe that the rising tide lifts all ships. And, when one community is successful, that success will spill over and help the other ones. So,
Well, I find that really interesting because a lot of times communities can be competitive, right? They're competing for businesses to locate there, they're competing for people to live there, visit there. So the fact that you guys are able to collaborate without a competitive environment, I think says a lot about your area.
yes, and currently it's funny because we have a situation going on right now where the Harrisonville Tourism Committee is supporting the city of Peculiar in their campaign to bring in a Buc-ee's. So if you're familiar with the Buc-ee's, they're a huge travel place and basically a tourist destination just by itself. And we're not trying to take the Buc-ee's away from them or try to get it into Harrisonville. We're helping our neighbors to the north get it into their city, knowing that the benefits will spill down to us and will spill out to the whole community. And having people to understand that is hard, but once they do, then they get it and they've got it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way to express it. I think that's interesting that you express Bucky's as a tourism destination because it is, and I had never really thought about it that way. I mean, they serve a vital need for travelers, and I know people that shop there all the time and people that eat there all the time. But as a tourism destination, I hadn't thought about that. That's great insight.
Going back to your original question about the when did we start on World Cup, just kind of wanted to give you that background there. So not to get off the topic, but believe it or not, we started thinking about the World Cup 3 years ago, and that was 2021, right after COVID. A group of us had got together to brainstorm on ideas of how we're going to bring people back into town, get out of their homes, and get back to doing business so that our economy could start rolling again. One interesting fact is during COVID, I never once shut down our Chamber of Commerce. We were open every single day, and we helped save over 2 dozen of our local businesses. We helped them get those PPP loans and other services and use internet capabilities, and we set up Zoom conference rooms and stuff. So way back in 2021, our group come up with tourism, the tourism committee that I mentioned a second ago, with a goal to bring people into town. And in the process, we heard about the World Cup coming in 2026 and then geared up our focus to that. So our tourism committee has had fundraisers, and of course, we've used that to help create a website. And then we've developed 1 day historical tours, and in cooperation with our marketing class at our Cass Career Center, we've created a visitor's guide showcasing every town in Cass County. So those are some things that some of our local communities need to start thinking about is, it's going to be here quick. It's going to be June through the end of July in 2026. And what I learned is we're going to have 6 games played here in Kansas City, and we should have, I believe it's 3 base camps. So those would be, for example, like the Argentinian team, maybe, based here, and that their fans will be over where they're at and watching them practice and, things like that. Now, all of the games will be held at Arrowhead, and for us to get 6 of those is just going to be huge.
Have they established where those base camps are going to be?
They are in the works with those because they'll probably be in Overland Park. Don't quote me on that, but Overland Park has a lot of good facilities. North Kansas City with the current soccer stadium up there at the River Market area. I think they've got a big complex over by the Legends, if I'm not mistaken. So they're going to be spread out all over the place, but don't quote me on those. I don't think those decisions have been formalized yet.
But they're looking for places to practice, I guess.
Correct.
Yeah, that makes
Hmm.
sense. So you've got people coming into the Kansas City area region for the World Cup from all over the world. What are you guys doing to try to attract them to your area?
Sure. So we've been working with the Kansas City Visitors Bureau, Visit KC, and Mid America Regional Council, as well as the Kansas City Chamber of Commerce. And in working with them, we learned that there's going to be an estimated 1.5 million people coming to the U.S. for the World Cup in 2026. And of that, about 85% of those are going to come from European countries. And the economic impact to the Kansas City region, and what they've done is taken Kansas City, made it the center of the spoke of the wagon wheel, and gone out about 2.5 hours in every direction from Kansas City. And that economic impact to that region is estimated at $500 million. And our plan, of course, is we want to get a piece of that pie.
Sure.
So, in thinking about that, our tourism committee has developed, like I said, the 1 day historical tours. And as part of our research, one of the things that we learned, an interesting fact about Europeans, is they are absolutely fascinated with the American Civil War. Well, what does Missouri and Kansas have a lot of? We're rich in Civil War history, right? And, one of my hopes is that our surrounding communities start inventorying their assets and start finding ways to promote those, to attract these tourists to their areas. And of course, you attract the tourists, you attract the dollars with it. So here in Harrisonville and in Cass County, we've started developing these day tours so that they can come and visit these historical sites, and of course spend their money in our local artisans markets and small businesses. And the World Cup games are going to be huge for us. Why shouldn't we get a piece of that pie?
We absolutely should. That's interesting. I never realized the fascination with the Civil War among Europeans. That's a really interesting piece of data.
Yes, we didn't know that either. And when we found that out, we're like, guess what?
You got it.
We can figure this out because we got all kinds of places for them to visit.
Is it time for people to start buying World Cup tickets? Are those on sale yet?
They're not on sale yet. I don't believe they're going to go on sale until about a year before the games start. Obviously, there's still lots of details and technical things to be worked out. Like I was saying earlier, I just got to notice that, they're looking for furniture right now. The FIFA World Cup is looking for furniture, probably for, their bases and things like that, and conference centers. And, one of the things I've told our local hotels is they need to be reaching out. The hotel rooms are going to be sold out, clear down to Springfield, if you can believe that, with so many people coming in. So they need to reach out and establish, connections so that they can get those rooms rented out.
Yeah. So lots to do, and it's still 2 years away.
Oh, yes. Well, that's why we started 3 years ago, right?
That's right. I mean, there has to be tons of different organizations that are all working kind of collectively to move the needle on this, right?
Oh, yes. In our Rotary district, which is 6080, I started talking about this as, being part of the leadership team for our district 2 years ago. And back then, nobody had even thought about it. And then the light bulb come on and said, oh, wow, this is going to be huge for us. So I believe it's going to be the 100-year anniversary of Route 66. And we've got Rotary clubs all up and down from Springfield up to St. Louis that are going to have different things to do. Like you can take basically a trip down Route 66. We're going to start in Springfield and then end up in St. Louis, and then they're going to flip their hats around and then drive across I-70, hit our clubs that are in Jefferson City and Columbia area, and of course Sedalia, and come across to Kansas City, and then join up with our Kansas City groups. Because our region to the north, our district to the north, and then the one over in Kansas, we're all going to be impacted by this. And, having different things to do and events out there to call attention to Rotary. Rotary is an international organization, so they've been part of World Cups in different countries all over the world. So not necessarily their first rodeo, but, we're going to use some of their things that they have done in other countries here. So why reinvent the wheel, right?
Right. That makes a lot of sense. You seem like a marketer. You seem like you have a very savvy view on marketing. How have you seen the marketing landscape change over the last 4 or 5 years? Have you seen an evolution there?
I have. It's a daily thing that you do, and you probably don't even think you're doing it. But a couple years ago, when I was part of the Harrisonville School Board, I was able to connect those dots that I was talking about earlier and get the Kauffman Foundation Real World Learning Program started in the Harrisonville School District. And as part of that, the goal is to have each student graduate with a market value asset. So that can be like dual credit classes, entrepreneurship, internships, things like that. And so what the chamber did to support that was we created a marketing intern. So we have a marketing internship. And I've had four of those come through the chamber. And what it does is it just gives them, not to be cliche, but it gives them real world marketing experience. So they're responsible for our Facebook website. They're responsible for creating graphics for members that need help. Every Wednesday, they put out our newsletter blast. So they're responsible for putting it together. So they learn all kinds of different things, different programs such as WordPress, Constant Contact, SurveyMonkey, Facebook. And we've seen those things change. And one of the new things that's come in is software Canva. And the school subscribes to that. So our interns have access to that. And it's so easy. It makes every person like a marketing professional. Match up your colors, put in your words, change your fonts around, and you can create all kinds of stuff. And I see that as a big change and a big help versus the snip and clip and paste and all the kind of good stuff we did 6 years ago when we first started. And then, of course, looking into the future, AI, artificial intelligence, is going to have to play some role in marketing. And I don't know what that's going to be, but it's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Scary to even think about, but we use it in our agency every day. We're helping clients and integrate it into their operations and their communications and their processes as well because it's a great tool. It's not a catch-all for everything. It's a great tool, and I think that's a good way to approach it right now. I loved your comment about, technology because, the technology just keeps changing. It's driving marketing, hoping to make it, faster, better, cheaper. We appreciate you taking on an intern every year and training them for organizations like us that are always looking for good talent that has a little bit of experience that can hit the ground running. So thank you for that.
Oh, you bet. And I'm so proud of the ones that I've had. So the first one I had didn't know whether or not he wanted to be in marketing. So this was kind of one of those little test, put your toe in the water. And afterwards, now he went to Arkansas State, I believe it is, Razorbacks down there for marketing. Absolutely loves it. The second one I had, he started his own business and is now doing videography and commercials and didn't know if that's what he wanted to do, but absolutely loved it and is doing it. And then my last two girls both have went to nationals in marketing, and the last one placed in the top 10 in the nation. And I can't take full credit for it, but I just think it's that ability for them to be able to tell their story. They can talk about their real world experience. I had to learn this program to put this graphic together to advertise this, and here's what happened. And I think that resonates with the judges and the people out there, and it gives them a leg up.
Absolutely. Well, you're giving them the opportunity and they're taking advantage of it. Sounds like another good thing you do. I'm guessing you're going to continue to get interns every year.
Yes, they're actually lined up now. It was kind of funny, it was one of those when you first start, everybody's like, "Oh, I don't know, there's no applicants for it," and sent somebody over, and the next thing you know, they look at how well we've done and how good we are, and now there's a line of them, and I could have probably 10 at a drop of a hat, which is a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, keep up the good work. Well, as I mentioned earlier, our podcast focus is marketing to rural America. When I say the words rural America to you, because I think they mean different things to different people, what do they mean to you?
It's just real simple. It just means home. Rural America is where I grew up. It's my home. The heartland, patriotism, freedom, freedom loving people. That's what rural America is to me.
Absolutely. Right on line with you there. So, as we wrap up today, Bing, anything else you'd like to share with our Outdrive audience that you think they might find interesting?
just start focusing on the World Cup and getting your piece of that pie. That's so important. And then, think about if you're a small business, working with your local school and creating an internship of some kind. The stuff that you do for the next generation pays dividends from now to eternity.
Great insight. Bing, hey, I appreciate getting to know you. I've enjoyed our conversation, and I want to thank you for being on Outdrive.
You bet. Thanks, Cliff. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Folks, thanks for listening to Outdrive. I hope you've enjoyed our visit with Bing Schimmelpfenning, Executive Director of the Harrisonville Area Chamber of Commerce. If you liked the show, go out and give us a rating and review, and come back again next week, and I'll take you down the roads of rural America where it's heaven on earth.
Thanks for taking a ride with us on Outdrive. This episode is complete, so head on over to ecallis.com for more insight you can apply to help drive your business growth. And be sure to sign up for our free monthly e-letter, Outthink, for even more helpful content about marketing to rural America. Have a great day and keep on driving.